Good morning, it's your man, Pastor Jay, with another reflection on devotion. Today we're looking at the second half of Romans chapter 9, verses 19 through 33. And Paul is really wrapping this thing up as far as God's sovereignty and as far as how inclusive God is. In verse, he's been talking about the will of God and how he blesses who he's going to bless. He has mercy on who he's going to have mercy on. And in 19 it says, "You will say to me then, why does he still find fault, for who will resist his will?" And so this is a question of, okay, if God is all this sovereign, and if he does what he wants to with people, then why are there people who are lost? Why are there people who resist the gospel and aren't accepting of Christ? And again, this is the tension we feel between free will and God's sovereignty. In verse 20 and 21, he says, "On the contrary, who are you, O man, who answers back to God? The thing molded will not say to the molder, 'Why did you make me like this?' Will it? Or does the potter have the right over the clay to make from the same lump one vessel for honorable use and another for common use?" Verse 22, "What if God, also willing to demonstrate his wrath and to make his power known, endured with much patience vessels of wrath prepared for destruction?" This tension is this, whether or not we are made with a certain and defined destiny, or whether we're made and we make the decision to fulfill the destiny or not. And this is something that we will never have a conclusive answer on until we reach God and be able to talk to him face to face. But we do understand, and the Bible teaches, that we are free will beings. We are made with a purpose. We have an assigned destiny. We are predestined in that matter for a certain work that God would have us to do. However, we have the ability to short circuit that, to make a decision not to do it. However, God in his sovereignty, even though he isn't controlling it, he knows what we're going to do. So if he bursts us with a destiny and he knows that we're not going to fulfill it, he's going to make sure that his mission takes place regardless of the matter. And so someone else will be birthed to have, to be prepared to carry out the mission. In verse 24, he begins this shift in his argument, saying that there are those who are not Jews who are going to accept the gospel, who are going to be God's followers. And this is showing the inclusiveness of God. Verse 24 says, "Even us, whom he also called, not from among Jews only, but also from among Gentiles." And so, again, we got to understand that back then there was this big argument on who God's children really were. And the Jews felt that you had to be a Jew. You had to fulfill the Jewish customs of circumcision, of refraining from certain practices, because that's what God had ascribed to them in the ceremonial law, all of which was pointing toward Jesus. But Paul was trying to help them understand that God is not exclusive, he is inclusive. And so he opened up the door for God's people, because the Jews were supposed to have gone out and spread the gospel. They were supposed to share about God and invite people to get to know this God who had made a covenant with them. However, they chose to make it exclusive. Unfortunately, we have too many churches like that this day. They want to be exclusive and keep people out and hoard the gospel. But we have to understand, God's pouring out his latter rain, and there will be an outpouring of the Holy Spirit like has never been seen before. This gospel will get out to all the world, because that's what has to happen before God comes. Sidebar. Anyway, back to the study here. Verses 30 and 31 say this, and this is a response to those who feel, okay, well, as Jews, we've been keeping God's law. We've been doing what God has asked us to do for so long. So what is this with these latecomers, these Gentiles? Verse 30 says, and 31 says, "What shall we say then? That Gentiles who did not pursue righteousness attained righteousness, even the righteousness which is by faith? But Israel, pursuing a law of righteousness, did not arrive at that law." And again, he's laying groundwork and helping them understand. He's been making this argument all throughout this book, that the law does not save you. It is not the law that saves you. You cannot be saved no matter how obedient you are to the law. You will not be saved by the law. And so in verse 32 is where he kind of wraps this thing up. Why? Because they did not pursue it by faith, but as though it were by works, they stumbled over the stumbling stone. And so what he's saying here is those who are pursuing righteousness by works, who feel that you have to obey the law, obey, that's going to get you saved. He's saying, no, that is not what saves you. You are not going to enter in the kingdom because you kept the law. And it's a struggle, particularly I know among my denomination, this law versus grace thing. But we have to understand it's not both and. It's not either or, it's both and. We are obedient because of our faith, because we have accepted this free gift of salvation, because Jesus Christ paid it all. Our reflex, our response is obedience. There is nothing we can do to be saved. Salvation has been made available to us all. All we have to do is accept the fact that we have been justified and go forward operating as a new creature because we have allowed God to make the transformation. I pray that if anyone is watching this video and you have been a legalist, you've been a person who feels that you have to do this, you have to do that in order to be saved, I hope you will understand the crux of what Paul is saying here. Read through this book of Romans. Understand what he is saying, that is not by your works, but it's by the work of Jesus Christ that we are saved. And then once you are saved, you react in a certain way, which is evidence of your transformation, not the means to salvation. I pray this has been a blessing to you. Please share if it has been. Ask that you would tune in again tomorrow for another reflection on devotion. We're going to go into Romans chapter 10. If this is the first time seeing it, please go back on YouTube and check out my other studies, or on the Truly Blessed Media page on Facebook. Romans is a rich book, and it is the basis of true Christianity, as Paul is explaining the gospel and what exactly is needed for salvation. God bless you. Have a wonderful day. It's your man, Pastor Jay, out. We'll see you tomorrow.